Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet of Islam and his immaculate family and his loyal companions. Dear brother and sister in faith, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to yet another edition from series of Quran and Today's Life. As you might have already been following these series of programs, we are trying to, in fact, catch some information from the noble teachings of Quran, the Holy Book of Allah. In fact, some practical points that we may use them and bestow them in our daily lives. For this purpose, in our recent programs, we have started discussing some training points, specifically in regard to training our children in our daily lives, which is one of the important issues that families may face these days. In our recent programs, we talked about the shoulds and should nots in the training of children. We said that what should we do in this regard? Among those, based on the Quranic teachings, were to be a good role model for the children. Also, to trust them, to respect them, and to educate them based on the Quranic teachings and Islamic teachings. And the last one was building their personalities in their early ages. Inshallah, by Allah's will, we shall discuss the things that we should observe not to do. For this purpose, Sheikh Qasim, Islamic scholar, will be helping us with his scholarly information to answer the questions that we shall pose in this program. But at the very beginning, I would like to say salam to him and welcome him to this program, and say if he has any introductory remarks with the viewers, we'll be glad to hear first.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى صحبه المنتجبين. Thank you very much, and I would like to start my discussion with the respected viewers with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Qasim, if you remember, we have been talking about the different, factors that should be regarded in the, in fact, training of children in the family. Among those were building their personalities in the very early ages. This was among, I think, the last points that we mentioned. You promised us to talk about what not to do, in fact, based on Quranic teachings. What can we understand from Quran that we should observe not to do in the family concerning the training of children specifically, as the topic of discussion is?
Before I get to the main discussion, I would like to talk a little bit about the necessity of this discussion. I mean, the second part of our discussion. So the first part was the things that we have to do with regard to training children, and the second one, what should we should not do. Okay, so what is the importance of this discussion? I think it is as important as the first part,
no doubt,
or even maybe more important than the first part. And I will recite some of the verses that shows how important this issue, particularly this issue, I mean, not doing some actions, is in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Holy Prophet's traditions and the infallible Imam's traditions. First of all, we have to know that if we do not care about these issues, it would not harm just our child, or our boy or our daughter, okay? It will have its impact on the whole society. In one of the sessions, I talked about this, and I said that the issue of training children, one of the aspects of training children refers to the child himself or herself. But overall and generally, the impact and the effects of these training issues will refer to the whole society, because the children are going to be the members of the next generation. Okay, so if we do not care about these issues, it will not just harm my son or my girl or my daughter. Okay, it will harm the whole society or the next generation as a whole. Okay, and it does not stop there as well. because there are going to be moms and dads,
of the next generation.
Of the next generation after their own generation, okay? So it's a story that will be continued forever, okay? So these issues are so important and have to be taken into consideration and have to be observed.
Exactly.
And basically we know that the children are the means of Allah's trial. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Anfal, verse number 28, says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةً. The children and your properties, they are the means of Allah's trial. So we are examined by our children. So we have to be so careful.
What does it mean that we are examined by our children?
It means that in both sides, as I said, in both aspects of this issue, we have to be so careful about training our children on one hand, because they are our children, okay? And we have to care about their characteristics and their traits, okay? So because we have this responsibility as a father or as a mother, this is on one hand. And on the other hand, this is one aspect of the trial. And on the other hand, they are going to be the members of the next generation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not want us to be ignoring about our children or ignoring about the next generation. Okay?
So this is a trial for the parents?
This is a trial for the parents. Okay, so fitnatun li al-walidain. It's a sort of trial and a sort of exam for the parents. And it sounds so tough, and it gets sometimes so tough. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hud, verse number 45 and 46, when it quotes the story of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, and the story that he embarked on his ark, the Prophet Nuh, and he called out for his son and said, "Oh Allah, you promised me that you let the mu'mineen to embark this ark. Why don't you let my son embark on this ark?" And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "It is not amongst your family. إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِ." Let me recite this verse. It's a very beautiful and shocking verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hud, as I said, in verse number 45, says, وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ فَقَالَ رَبِّ إِنَّ ابْنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقُّ وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ قَالَ يَا نُوحُ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ.
A question that just come to my mind is that how come that one son cannot be from one's family? But I would like you to answer my question after a very short break. We can also invite the respected viewers to stay with us. We shall be back soon. Let's go to the control room and see what they have been preparing for us. Welcome back to Quran and Today's Life and our discussion concerning training points that we may, in fact, catch from Quranic teachings, and more specifically concerning training of our children. In this regard, Hujjatul Islam Shaykh Qasim Muhammadi was talking about the importance of the discussion and what we should not do based on Quranic teachings. We mentioned that in previous programs we have been talking about what we should do, and this very program is dedicated to things that we have been prevented based on Quranic teachings. The question that I posed and asked from Shaykh Qasim was concerning the, in fact, position of a child or son or daughter in a family that becomes from the strangers. As we have heard that in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Ya Nuh, your son was not among your family. I asked Shaykh Qasim, what's the reason that one's child, one's son becomes, for example, a stranger and not from the family of one's, property.
All right. As I was describing the situation, sometimes the situation becomes so tough that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, or in a more general sense, we can say in Islamic teachings, a son, a person who has blood relationship with a person is not regarded as his son, okay? And this is because he does not observe the beliefs of Islam, okay? So the situation is like this, that if you are observing what I believe, okay, but you are observing specifically the Islam or the religious rulings, so to speak. So if you are in these situations, then you have that blood relationship that is there, okay?
You mean the blood relation would cut if we are not?
And if you are not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes such a person as not having even blood relationship. And it's not biologically, but Islamically and religiously, okay? And in a sort of spiritually, you are not regarded.
And it doesn't matter whom you are belonging to, whether it is the Prophet Nuh or any other.
Or any other person, any other simple person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ يَا نُوحْ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ. He's not your son. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, he is my son. He is my beloved son. Actually, there are some discussion that this son was not Prophet Nuh's son, but the Allama Tabatabai, late Allama Tabatabai, says these discussions and these challenges that they might raise against this son not being Nuh's son, all of them are refuted, because Nuh himself says he is a nabni min ahli. He says he is my child, because some people say that he's from the other husband of Nuh's sons, from other husband. Before he gets married, she gets married with Nuh. She had that son with another person. But this is refuted by so many scholars, and amongst them Allama Tabatabai. And this is one of the strong reasons that the Nuh himself says he is my ibni, he is my son. Okay, so he is his son, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not regard.
I mean, some other commentators wanted to use, this, that he is not from your family, to say that this son of Prophet Nuh was from another wife,
husband, the ex-husband of Nuh.
One of the wives of Prophet Nuh.
No, the husband, the ex-husband of one of the wives of Nuh.
Yeah, true.
So they try to put it in this way, that she had that son before gets married with Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. But this is not the case, and it is refuted even in the
so it was the genuine son of the Prophet Nuh.
Yeah, and he was, and although he was the Prophet Nuh's son, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, he is not your son. Why? Because he is not a believer. Because the Prophet Nuh, because he was sort of hiding, he not being believer, his son I mean. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Prophet Nuh that he is not a believer. So when he is not a believer, then he does not have any blood relationship with you. And it's a sort of exaggeration. As I said, it's a sort of not being one's family spiritually. Okay? So this is the situation. So we have to be so careful about these issues.
So this is concerning the importance of discussion, that as you said, the son of Nuh was not his stepson, rather than his real son.
Yeah.
And this relation cuts here if you are not to follow the Islamic teachings anymore. Yeah, among other points that we should be careful and not to do in the realm of training.
I will just start with the first one that I just named, the last session we had, the previous session we had. And it was shaitan sometimes participate in forming children. Shaitan sometimes participate in the formation of our children, okay? And it might
formation of their personality and characteristics?
I will explain it. It contains both of those aspects. Sometimes it might seem a little bit strange at first glimpse, but it is not that strange. I will read you one of the verses that refer to this very point.
Okay.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Isra, verse number 64, says, واستفزز أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك وأجلب عليهم بخيلك ورجلك وشاركهم في الأموال والأولاد وعدهم وما يعدهم الشيطان إلا غرورا. Mislead any of them you may with your voice, attack them with your cavalry and soldiers on foot, share the wealth and children with them. So you can participate in the formation of the children of human being. And how is it possible? One of the obvious examples of this sharing in somebody's child is through his or her parents. Okay, sometimes we see that parents, not sometimes, unfortunately, many times we see that the parents in the family and at home, they commit sins. Okay, and this father or mother committing sin is watched by the son or by the girl in his family, okay? And he's copying, as we explained it in one of the sessions we had, they copy whatever they see in their early ages, at least in the first 7 years that they are in, they copy everything and they learn everything that they see in their parents, okay? So parents committing sins are watched by them. Okay, so they copy and they learn that they say, yes, it is a good action that my father or my mother is doing. Okay, so Satan is sharing in the child's personality and is sharing in actually raising that child, okay, through his or her parents. Right. So it's a sort of sharing in the children, sharing in upbringing their children with their parents, okay?
Exactly.
This is one of the examples. So we have to be so careful to not be the means of shaitan, okay? Nice. This is one example. Another example that is a little bit strange and shocking as well is sometimes before the conception of child, okay, and while conceiving the child, shaitan can participate in that process, okay? So shaitan has this ability to participate in conception of a child. How is it possible? Mm-hmm. There are some traditions amongst our traditions that say that shaitan sometimes has this ability. For example, when a person, al-'ayadhu billah, commits adultery, there's a tradition that says shaitan is doing that sexual intercourse with that woman as well, together with the one who is committing the sin. Okay, so the child that is going to be born is a sort of the shaitani sort of soul. Okay, so that child,
because half of his personality
is satanic. Okay, so this is one of the examples. Another example, there are some traditions that say there's some signs of a person who is being conceived like this. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that when you see a person shouting and swearing at people without caring about their dignity and honor, and do not care about himself being sworn at, his nutfa, or when he was conceived, the shaitan shared his own share with his father and mother, okay, because he does not care about these sorts of things, and these are just examples. And
so the main concept of, in fact, participation of shaitan, or let's say the effect of shaitan in one's personality, in child's personality, comes from Quran. But elaboration that you just made is from traditions and hadith.
From traditions. And interestingly, there are some traditions that says, for example, and provides and recommend what to do with regard to this point and avoiding, for example, participation of shaitan in conceiving one's child. For example, we have in traditions that try to start your intercourse with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, okay, with the word of Allah, and while having intercourse, you try to say the words of Allah, okay, exactly. And it sort of repel the shaitan, okay. And there are so many traditions with regard to this, and I will not go over those traditions, yet they are listed in our books or in jurisprudential books or ethical books. And I just want to introduce one of the books, because some people, sometimes some dear brothers and sisters ask me that which book can we refer to with this regard. Arabic books and Persian books, there are lots of them, but English versions and English ones, I have not seen many of them, but I just found one of them online in the website alislam.org under the title of this work, From Marriage to Parenthood, The Heavenly Path. This is the title of the book. And in this book, it is
Who is the writer?
completely, the writer is Abbas and Shaheen Merali. I do not know them, but I sort of went through the book, and I saw that the translation as well as the original Arabic terms and Arabic supplication that has to be recited, for example, while having intercourse or conceiving child. After that, what food should we eat, what food should not we eat, and all of these recommendations and dislike makruha that are brought about in our traditions are gathered and compiled in this book. It's a very good book to refer to. I repeat the address, alislam.org. And the title of the book, From Marriage to Parenthood, The Heavenly Path.
Okay, concerning the things that we should not do, you in fact change the format of the question, what to do here. In fact, so that not to help shaitan in information of the personality of our children, what should we do?
We should not let shaitan
share what should we do to in fact prevent shaitan from in fact being a part of our sin?
As I mentioned, we have to stop him from both sides. The first side that I explained was not committing sins in front of children, not being the means of shaitan, okay? Yeah. And on the other hand, we have to observe these recommendations that we have in our traditions and these sorts of instructions so that we can have a healthy and good child, and to observe these sorts of traditions to be
a short question here. Does it mean that if we committed a sin in front of the children and they learned from us, would be in fact the sin that they may in fact commit in the future, and then we have a share of their sin, that sin that he is going to commit?
That is the case.
Okay.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish us by the sins that we have made our children
in fact,
do.
Because we were the one who learned them to this.
This is the case. Yeah.
Well, Sheikh Qasim, would you like to know more in this regard? And in fact, we have been waiting to, in fact, have some Quranic witnesses in this regard to know what should we not do exactly. I mean, if there is any Quranic witness here in this regard, and we were waiting to, in fact, read and recite and translate them. But I think we have just introduced the topic, and in our next session, inshallah, we shall discuss it in depth, inshallah. Thanks again for accepting our invitation to this show. And you, dear viewers, very thanks for, in fact, joining us with this show, and I invite you to join us in our next session. Till then, have a very good time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.